Welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Speaker Series with today's guest. I'm very excited to talk to Luis. Luis has become a good friend of mine very recently, but we have so much in common and we have shared so many fascinating stories. So today you're in for a real treat because Luis has a lot of good stories and golden nuggets to share here on the journey of real estate. But first and foremost, Luis, thank you so much for coming on. How are you today? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Today's Friday, so I know this is evergreen, but today's Friday.
Today's
So I'm
Friday,
happy.
and
I'm
we
happy
are
for that too.
right. We are right before the Christmas. So I especially appreciate you for taking the time out
Sure.
because right now, right, is one of those days where either people are off or you're still powering through, taking things over the finish line. And I've seen you working so hard. So I appreciate you for taking that time out and coming on here. But how is your end of the year? Like what's going on right now in your world, Luis?
So well, right now, let me tell you. So we've been seeing a lot of deals come through our desk, and we've taken a look. Most of them don't work, but that hasn't changed. It's been like that for about 2 years now. I mean, we've had. Let me just kind of back up a little bit. So I'm in the commercial real estate space,
Yeah.
and so I've been a real estate investor for 18 years, more than 18 years, almost 19, coming this month. And my journey, I guess, has taken me where I am right now, where I'm investing in commercial properties, like in commercial real estate properties, meaning multifamily, storage, mobile home parks, all the other things like developments
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
You're
that's
very
kind of
well
what we're doing right now.
diversified.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing right now, right? But I did start in single family, so it's basically just being a journey to get me here,
Yeah.
right? It's been 18 years of my life to get here, but right now, being December, we're just focusing on what we're gonna do next year.
Yeah.
And what we're gonna do next year, we're actually doing right now. I'm not one of those people that are going to do New Year's resolutions, and we're going to do it on January 1st,
Yeah.
after all the partying and after all the drinking and eating and
Yeah.
being with family. That's all good, but that's for me just another thing that we have to do, right?
Mhm.
So, from my point of view, what we're going to do is just carry on with what we're doing. We're just going to lean more into what we needed to do, what we need to do right now, and just get it more dialed in, I would say.
Yeah. More refined. Now, I'm
Yeah.
totally with you on that. That's how we approach the end of the year as well. But on that note, though, is this typically a time, Luis, that you and your team and your partners do you take out any time between now and the end of the year to kind of sit down and kind of look? You already said it. Do more of what you're already doing. But is there a time or in your process in which you say, guys, let's get around the table here and let's, like you said, dial in. Let's refine what we have been doing so that when January comes around, January 2025, you hit the ground running with more clarity and actions to take. So how's that for you? Like, how do you get that dialed in?
Sure. Yeah. So I do have um, a couple of coaches, not only the team that I'm part of, but also like coaches that I ask for advice. And we did that session already, and the idea is just to see what points are missing, see what points need refinement, and we've already done that.
Mhm.
Right now, internally, my partner is my wife, and we do that usually after Christmas. So between Christmas and New Year's Eve, we do that then,
Yeah.
usually, right?
Yeah.
So we get together, at least a couple of hours. We talk about, we're grateful, and for being here, for having our kids and all that.
Yeah.
So we give thanks for that, but also at the same time, it's like, okay, so we've done this. What is next?
Yeah.
How
So
do
it's
we
it's
get to the
almost
next
like a
level,
brainstorm
right?
session. Like, are
Yeah, yeah.
you're
I
coming
mean,
together just brainstorming on these thoughts?
not really a brainstorm per se, because we kind of know what we want to do.
Yeah.
It's just more of, are there any more ideas that we haven't done to get to those goals that we already have, right?
Right.
So maybe think about alternatives, or other people that we haven't thought of, or like little tweaks here and there,
Yeah.
because usually it's those little tweaks here and there that get you more, because you haven't
Absolutely.
done them before, you know.
And does it make a difference if you do that now versus, let's say, you might, some people argue we get busy and then we might try to do that in January. Does it make a difference for you doing that now, right? A few weeks before that New Year's or end of the year versus doing that in January?
It does. It does. It's just a lot of it is just mindset. A lot of it is like a psychological thing that we all have. A lot of people, it's amazing to me. Like a lot of people, they just switch off literally a few days before Christmas, and they kind of turn on again, kind of
Yeah.
the second week of January, right?
Yeah.
So I don't really get that. That way you're losing a month. At least, the very least, you're losing a month.
Yeah, because there's like a runway, right? It takes some time to get back into the momentum of things. So
exactly.
there's this lag indicator, right? If you're not doing this today, then it's going to take some time for you to be back in the momentum, in that energy that you had, maybe going into December, right? Like you have spent this entire year, but all that energy is kind of lost the moment you switch off for like 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's basically it. That's why we kind of start. I mean, I don't want to, because I've done it the other way too. I've done it like, I'm not even gonna look at Christmas, and then we go off, and then I'm still working through Christmas and through New Year's, and that doesn't work either. And I wouldn't call it a balance, but you need to have a good perspective of what you need to do so that you switch off on and off. I mean, like you switch off during those 2 days, and the rest of the days you're still working. You're still at least, on in terms of your work and your passion and your company, if you have a company or whatever you're doing, because time doesn't really stop.
Yeah,
time goes on.
Yes,
you may be somewhere else, but time is going to go on anyway, right? So you might as well just use that time for you and not against you. So if you start for things that are going to take time anyway, start them right now.
Yeah.
If you have like a permit for a job that you need to do, start it right now. You know why? Because a lot of people are going to go somewhere else. People are going to go on vacation, and they're not going to be even paying attention. But some people will stay there, and some people will take a look at your permits, and they're going to say, well, this week we haven't had any permits to issue, but we have this and that,
Yeah.
Those are going to get done through the period of Christmas, which is what you want to do anyway. So when you come back in January, you already have everything, right? Yeah. That's kind of, utopic. That's going to be an utopia, but because I know sometimes that doesn't happen. But if it's still going to be time that it's going to take to do those things, you might as well just do them now.
Yeah. And I think that's really also it's a mentality, right? You got to have that mentality and that mindset of don't leave anything for tomorrow or next week, what can be done today, because time is very short. But the point is you want to generate that momentum. And if you have it, you can never take your foot off the accelerator, even though we have the holidays and Christmas and the New Year's, which is a fantastic time to just enjoy that with family and friends, but never leave anything for tomorrow, what you can do today. So Luis, you're the founder of American Asset Legacy.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always like that, right? It wasn't always like that. And you started in single family. You told me the story. And today you are a commercial real estate investor, very diversified in different asset classes. But take us through a journey on how you got started out of college, because you're also a left brainer, right? You are an engineer by trade and you love the numbers, and I've gotten to know you. and I see you're very pragmatic in a step-by-step approach. So take us all the way back to your corporate career and in when you were an engineer, and how does that apply today in everything you do on a daily basis?
No, of course. Yes. So let me start just by saying this. A while back, I don't know how many years, maybe 25 years ago or something, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
And it was, as many people know, as many people that have read this book, they know that it's a book that changes your perspective. You know, a lot of people like me at that time, as you said, I studied engineering in university, and I'm a numbers guy. I like numbers, but I also like to make money,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of people say that or used to say, or used to say to me at least, that all you have to do is just get a job and you will be fine, right? I know these things have changed quite a lot, but still a lot of people still think that you have to go and get a job to find your calling.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anything bad about it. You should definitely find a job. You should definitely go to university. But then also at the same time, focus on marketing and sales and numbers. So if you know numbers and marketing, you're set. Yeah. So you may be an art major, or you may have some other calling like a lawyer or a doctor. It doesn't really matter as long as you know those things. And you have to go for marketing and numbers. You have to know those things, because those things are going to bring you money.
And real quick, when you say marketing, like give us some examples. When you give advice, let's say to a younger generation, you say you got to know marketing in today's world. Give us some examples on what that means.
I'm gonna say something to you. So I know a lot of people, like I don't even know how many people. I know a lot of people that are not using social media, for example, to their advantage. And in fact, the people that are on social media right now, 99%, they're not using social media the way you should.
Yeah.
You know, they're using social media to be users, consumers, right? Not producers.
Yeah.
You have to be a producer, meaning, tell about yourself, what you're doing, just be yourself. Of course, you don't have to be somebody else, but tell people what you're doing. Whatever it is, it may be what you're actually doing in your job. Just by doing that, you're actually getting a sense of branding for yourself. Yeah. People are gonna know you, right? They don't really know or care about where you work.
Yeah.
Don't even say that. Like, I work at here and there. Like, that's fine if the company is yours. But if it's not, it's like, it doesn't matter, Now, people do care about what you do, because maybe they will need you sometime, Yeah.
Or they might want to associate themselves with you on that.
Of course.
Journey. Yeah.
And if you don't tell them what you do or what your values are, or like, what you think about stuff, they won't even identify with you, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that as a selfish thing. It's like me. No, it's not like that. It's just like people want to be connected to other people too.
Yeah.
And they want to be connected to people that resonate with them.
I like to say, if you're not talking to the world about what you do and what drives you and the projects that you're excited about, then who will?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your mom.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
but that's
your parents are usually your biggest fan, but if you're not talking about what you do, how can you possibly inspire other people to join that journey that you're on?
And of course, that's an art in itself, right? To do that and not come across as braggy or like, I know it all or anything like that. You have to know how to do that. That's fine. That's the how, right? Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, the stuff that you need is just knowing the numbers and knowing marketing. And when I say the numbers, I don't mean like, really deep stuff like physics or anything like that, or advanced math. I'm just saying the numbers, meaning, addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, and percentages, like, proportions, because if like, this is going to cost me 10% more than before, you have to know those numbers.
Yeah.
Straight away. You don't need somebody to tell you.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, you're screwed. You should know. You know, oh, well, I'm kind of like the creative guy. That's all good. You need to know your numbers.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. You got it. You got to have creative ideas. And if those are the areas where you're weaker, right? I think it's your duty to find and surround yourself with people that can complement, right? You're very much on the left side, right? Numbers, systems, processes. The right brain, right, is the creative side, and so people tend to come up with a lot of ideas, which sometimes the numbers guys, they are challenged with, right, because they're in the box, and so you also need out of the box thinking. But I think if you understand that, you can surround yourself with both parties, right, combining best of both worlds. So Luis, take us through, right, since you're the numbers guy. I'm curious, you started, right? You were trained professionally as an engineer, numbers and formulations. Now, how did that apply to single family? And then walk us through the numbers, because you made the switch to commercial, right? I got to learn a little bit about your portfolio and some of your partners and the exciting projects that you're involved with.
Yeah.
But walk us through the numbers in single family, and why is commercial real estate so much more scalable? Like, can you give us an overview of the numbers just to put some perspective behind that?
Sure, of course. So let me tell you the first part of your question of like numbers, how they apply to like single family, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, when I used to do fix and flips, basically, and what that means is just like getting a house that is worth less than the market just because it needs work, right? So you get it under that market price because of that, right? So that's kind of the idea, right? So, and I'm just saying that because maybe some people don't know what that means, right?
Yeah.
So you get that type of house and you buy it. And I used to watch all these programs, right? Like, you know, you buy it for 100, you put up 50, and then you sell it for 200, so you make 50. And I was like, yeah, great, you know?
Yes.
But of course, they don't really tell you that those numbers are wrong, first of all. They don't really tell you that there are more numbers in there that you don't even know about.
There's a lot more to that.
A lot more numbers that you don't even know about. And they don't tell you that it's going to be taking more than the hour or the 2 hours that the program is.
Yeah.
You know, they make it seem so simple that it's like, you know,
exactly.
In a couple of hours, you're done.
Exactly. I mean, like, overnight, you're successful and you got money in your pocket and you nailed it.
In an hour, basically, you bought the property, you remodeled it, you sold it, and you got a profit in an hour.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And then you go take your family to the Caribbean and you enjoy a good life. Yeah,
that's like the second hour. You know? But yeah, but I'm just saying that so people know that it's not that easy. It's not crazy difficult either, right? But those are kind of the numbers, right? So you buy a property and then you remodel it, and you have to know the value of it once it's all remodeled, so you know kind of what your limit is. You won't be able to sell it more than that. You wish, but you can't, because that's what the market says, right? And that really depends on what other properties in that area and for that the same square footage are selling for. Right. So for example, I always say this because I'm gonna explain later how that comes into play when you're talking about commercial properties, right? But I always say this, like, you know, how do you measure, how do you know what the value of your house is, right? Because some people are crazy, basically. Some people are like thinking that when there's time to sell their houses, they just say, you know, I want to sell my house for 300,000.
Yeah.
But they don't realize that the house next door sold for 251,000, you know, 251,000.
And they would argue, we got marble and we got this beautiful furniture.
And then you have the house in front, and that sold for 249, and the other house is like for 252. So that means that if your house is kind of the same or similar to those, it's gonna sell for like 250. You won't be able to.
In other words, you are limited. What I hear you say, you're limited towards what your comparables are doing.
Definitely, exactly. So I'm just explaining that without saying that. But yes, you're basically limited to what the other houses in the neighborhood sell for. So you may say, but I put like marble floors and I put like, you know, golden things like from whatever, like Hillary, it doesn't matter. Maybe you're gonna get like $1,000 for that, but that's it.
Yeah,
You won't be
yeah,
able to get any more from that, you know?
yeah.
That's the way that you basically price a single family house.
Hmm.
Now I realized that, right? And because I did that for a long time. But then I saw that there was a lot of work to be done just to do, a
One
property for
house,
just one
yeah,
family, I
yeah,
would say, right?
yeah.
So I thought, okay, let me just look for something that it's like a duplex, which is like, a property for two people, two family, right?
Yeah.
Two families. So I thought, okay, let's just do two. But if the same work that goes into two goes into four, why not buy four,
Yeah.
right? And then why not buy 10 or maybe 20 or 50, you know?
Would you say it's the same amount of time, same amount of work that you put in buying,
It's
let's say 10, 20, 40 versus one?
Yes, it's kind of the same amount of work. It's different, the work that you put in.
Yeah.
So the knowledge base that you have to have is a little bit different. So that's what I focused on when I first started to look for commercial, or what that entailed back in 2019.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I just went out and looked for people that had done that before, what that entailed. I asked a bunch of questions. They had like seminars or stuff like that. So I joined them. So I actually learned a lot about commercial properties.
Yeah.
And then I realized that it wasn't really that different
Different. Yeah.
to the work that I was doing already anyway, to find single family properties.
Yeah.
And in fact, Rob, let me tell you just one thing. In fact, there is less competition when you go up.
Yeah.
It should be the other way around. People think
Yeah.
that, because they're in the corporate ladder, right? Usually everything is like a pyramid, right? So there are more people here. So you have less competition here, and you have more competition here at the top.
Yes.
Because you have to like kill somebody to actually go up
Yeah.
in your positions of the corporate ladder, right?
Yeah.
Whereas here in commercial, you have less investors as you go
Yeah.
up, basically.
The barrier becomes greater, right? So there's less
Yeah.
people in this space. And I love that you said that, because that's so true, right? Like if you are operating, if you're playing in a well, we may have heard about the red ocean and the blue ocean strategy, right? But if you're surrounded by a lot of people doing the same thing, like especially the fix and flips, right? You're constantly competing and your margins are extremely small. But I totally agree with you, and that's also my experience. The higher you climb, right, the numbers may increase and it might scare you at some point, right? But the moment you get comfortable with that, like you said, it's kind of the same amount of work, and you get comfortable and you learn the language, then that space becomes more rare, right? And you have more, you're creating a blue ocean for yourself with lots of opportunities, because there's just a lot fewer people operating in that space. So,
Yeah.
walk us through the numbers. Like, for example, some of the deals that you're currently involved with, like, I don't know if you're able to disclose that, but like, tell us about the asset class, the type of investment, and then like, what are some of these numbers? And how do you collaborate? Like, how do you execute on this project, not just by yourself, right? Because that's what you used to do together with your wife in single family, but now you have partners, you have teams, right? A lot of professionals around you. So walk us through the numbers, and then talk to us about how you collaborate with the team.
Sure. Well, let me tell you about some of the numbers that we talk about usually, right? And that's kind of our underwriting, meaning that's our criteria to buy something. And we have certain criteria, basically certain numbers that we look at, that they have to make sense. And if they don't make sense, then we either scrap the deal that we're analyzing, that we're underwriting.
Yeah, you're gonna pass on it.
Or we can always negotiate with the broker, saying like, hey, I know you're asking this, but like, we're here. So is there any way, I mean, like, can you explain why there is such a big difference? You know, because of our criteria, we're here. And of course, we want to play it safe and all that. So we may be able to go up a little bit, but not to the level of what they're asking.
Yeah.
Usually, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you about the numbers that we looked at in the past year, right?
Mhm.
Cap rate. I'm going to tell you a kind of a little technical stuff here, but like, cap rates are basically the return that you would get if you could actually buy that property in cash.
Yeah.
And that's just a way for people to measure what the expectation is once you go into that business,
Yes.
which is that property, because
Yeah.
commercial properties, they work as a business.
Yes.
They function as a business, right? Themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're different also to single family houses or residential properties, because residential properties don't really work like that.
Yeah.
Now, commercial properties do. They are a business themselves.
Yes.
So when you're looking at a business like that, then you have to know how to compare it, right? So that you get like an apples to apples kind of comparison. To do that, then you have to have cap rates into play. So you know, okay, in this area of town, of this certain city, actually, the cap rate that I'm expecting to get for that type of property, a C-class property, for example, is 6%.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now I know that the cap rate in that area should be around 6%, because that's basically what other investors, wait for when they're actually analyzing properties in that area.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that you look for. Another thing that you look for is to know the number of units, or the number of apartments, for example, in multifamily housing that you're looking for. I used to just look, as I said before in that example, like, maybe if I'm looking at something of being 1, 2, 3, 4 units,
yeah,
and I get something of 20 units, for me, that's a win, right? That's 20 times what I had before, right?
Yes.
So that works, but then you realize that there are other factors coming into play as well. If you have 20 units only, that means that you don't really have space, I would say, in terms of money, to pay somebody to be your dedicated property manager. Because you're not going to be managing everything yourself.
You're talking about economies of scale, right? Like the bigger the assets, the bigger the operating budget, the more resources, the more people involved.
Yes, and I'm just trying to be as eloquent as I can, so I can explain myself without going too deep into the numbers and the technical stuff. But I'm just giving an overview so people understand kind of what went through my mind when I said, you know what, I have to go from small to big. But the thing is that there is like a space, which is something that is not really big nor small, like kind of in the middle, right? Those are properties of between 10 units and 60 units. Those are kind of in the middle.
And Luis, sorry to interrupt, but we are almost reaching here at the end of our segment here. So I wanna make sure that we get a final message in here. But we might have to schedule a second portion to that to dive deeper into the numbers, right? Because there's so much to unpack in commercial real estate. We'll do a second segment. Hold on 1 second.
Cool. So let me, because I know that we're running out of time, and I want to be respectful, of course. So the idea that I was telling you about was just like basically that no man's land of units. And the reason that I'm telling you that is so people know that it's not that difficult. If you know these things before, right? Like I learned, right? I didn't know them before, but I learned. Then it's going to be easier for you. Like you can either go from 1 to 4 or from 4 to 100. And that's the way you should play it. Now, of course, you're going to tell me that, oh, well, it's not the same, this and that. And you're going to be like fearful to go from 4 to 100. It doesn't matter. You don't have to go do it alone. And that's the mistake that I made when I was actually starting out. I thought, because I'm an engineer, I know it all.
And you like the control too, right?
Right. Yeah. I know it all. And if I don't, I will find out. Because I can, because I'm an engineer.
Yes.
That's the wrong mentality if you do that, The mentality that you have to come, and actually get into business is just, I need to find out who has done it before, learn from them, and do it with them.
Yeah, with them. I agree.
And that's the whole idea. That's the whole point. That's what I wanted to drive home. Do it with them. Do it with people that know the stuff already. Now, how do you choose somebody versus another? That's another thing.
That's another story.
And you have to know their integrity. You have to know how they work, if they're honest, if they're trustworthy, if they know what they're doing. So there's a criteria, like a list, a whole list that you can actually go through to get to that point. But these things, my friends, it's not that difficult to learn.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a lot more difficult to learn engineering and medicine and biology, or to pass the bar, than learning real estate.
Correct. Yeah.
You know?
And here's a question that I often get, and I'm sure you get too when you speak to a lot of different people that might are looking to get into commercial real estate investing, or even passive investors that are looking to invest their money. So how do you go from single family, right, which is might be a $250,000 house, $400,000 house, depending on what segment of the market you operate in. But how do you go from there? And I currently know that with your partnerships and all, and we met some of your partners, right? The numbers just exponentially increase. So how did you went from the mindset of like a single family home to let's say like one of my first deals was a 200 unit apartment complex, right? So you go from like a $250,000 house to almost nearly a $30 million asset. Right. So explain us that, because I often get these questions. How do you approach that mindset when it comes to the money? Because when the numbers become bigger, the people fear the responsibility, right? The responsibility is, of course, a lot greater at $30 million or $10 million than it is at 250. So what is your advice there and your experience in how to scale up that mindset regarding the money?
Sure. So as you said, right, the numbers expand. So your mind has to also expand. If it doesn't expand, then you don't grow.
Yeah.
And that's just basically it. That's as fast and as short as I can possibly say it. You need to increase the amount of space that you have in your mind to put those big numbers there. Also, you need to understand that you won't be doing it alone, as I said before.
Yeah.
You need to find partners to do that, right? And the right partners, granted, but you need to find the right people and the partners that are going to propel you yourself to get to the next level. Yeah. And believe me, there are plenty of people out there that know what they're doing and that are actually taking new partners, new equity partners in their properties, in their endeavors. So you can be one of them.
Because it's a system, right? Like systems need people.
Definitely.
And if you can fill that need, you have a collaboration.
And for me, it was crazy because I didn't know that I was going to need other partners. It naturally occurred to me or for me that people were asking me like, hey, so for your next projects, because I see you posting about your house here and there and what you did here and there. So is there space for me? I'm like, what do you mean space for you? Like, well, to invest with you. I'm like, oh, I never thought of that, So it happened naturally to me, but that doesn't mean that it won't happen to you, or that you can actually be one of those people that invests, in somebody else's projects, and that's what I encourage you to know and find out. Go out, find out who are the best operators, syndicators in your town, and get to know them and see what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because you can do it. You can definitely do it with other people. You don't have to do it alone. As you said, $30 million. I don't have $30 million. I wish, but I don't have that right now anyway. I will probably have it later in life, but not right now. How you scale is just by being part of the right team. That's it.
The collaboration and with that, obviously, again, without going into too much depth into commercial real estate, but partners could also be considered the banks, right? Your lenders, those are your partners too. So it does not mean that you got to come up with like the $10 million, the $50 million, whatever that is, right? You have partners because it's together. It's a system, and you bring the collaborators together. So what I hear you say is, if you want to scale in life, especially if you're interested in starting a business or getting into real estate, right? Find the right collaborators or your partners, right? And find a piece of that system that you can fulfill that need, and then work together with people that have done it. It's probably a very safe, guaranteed, and fast way to scale. Would you agree with that?
That's 100% correct. Yes. That's how you scale. by knowing the right partners. Yes.
So 2025, talk to us as we coming to a close here, Luis.
Yes.
In 2025, what's on the books for you? What's on the table? What are you working on? And what would you say to people that and this is a perfect time because like we said earlier, people are like working on their goals. So as you got the New Year's resolutions, which by the way, we both don't agree with those, right? It starts now, not on January, 1st or 2nd. But what would you say besides what's on the books for you, but what would you say? How do people really get dialed in 2025 and get results fast? What would you recommend to them?
My recommendation to them will be to don't wait. That's the first thing. Don't wait until January. Do it now. And meaning get a hold of, like, do a search, like on Facebook or like, syndicators, multifamily real estate syndicators and you fill in the question with, your city. In Houston or in Austin or San Marcos or whatever, right?
Get to know
you fill that in.
Find the
and
players.
Get to know them. That's what I did. I mean, some people are going to be like, who are you? Like, what are you? Like, do you want to invest? Like, who are you again, right?
Yeah.
And you just candidly say, I want to learn from the best people in your field and you came up.
Yeah.
Can we set up a meeting? And then they're going to say yes most of the time. Or they're going to say, well, I'm busy right now, but like schedule it through my assistant and then, maybe next year or in 2 weeks or whatever, right?
So don't be afraid to reach out.
Do that.
And explain what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Explain what you want, right? Be candid and come from a place of the unknown, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Now I'm telling you of my experience. So I do know what's going to happen because I've lived it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But just come from a place of not knowing purposely and getting to know people openly. Like, I want to be open. I don't know what's going to go on with this, but I want to be open. And that way you're going to receive whatever you need to receive,
instead of like having that holding you back, right? Which
exactly.
is
instead of the fear
of the case with a lot of people.
Yes.
That the not knowing is holding them back, keeping them where they're at. But you're saying do the opposite. Reach out, express the journey that you're on, what you want, and you will find the right people to collaborate with and become part of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like taking action. That's all there is. Taking action. Whatever action that may be for
advice,
you.
by the way, because I think we all at some point in life, I think we would wish that we have done things sooner because it was that unknowing and potentially fear, anxiety of not knowing holding us back.
Definitely.
Yeah.
100%.
So finally, Luis, what's on the radar for you? Besides you have shown me some things. I know some of the projects that you're working on, but like what is on the books for 2025? What can we expect from Luis, the team, and also, of course, your business?
So in 2025, what I would like to do is just raise more capital because I think right now there will be a wave of properties coming into the market.
Yeah.
And we need to be prepared for that, So that's what I would say for us. That's what's coming. That's what we're preparing for. We've been preparing for that for the past year or year and a half. And it's just getting into a place of knowing people, networking, and keep those
talking to more people.
Just talking to more people, and keeping those connections alive too.
Yeah,
because it doesn't matter if you met somebody a year ago and you haven't been kept in touch. Then what's the point?
You got to build a relationship.
Definitely, and you got to be in touch.
Yeah,
with those people. So that's what we're doing. We're working on, and this because we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
We want to be, the people that other syndicators go to raise money.
Yeah.
Because we're out there, working to people or talking to people to get more money in for those properties that they have or for those projects that they have, and we're just talking to people, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like you're doubling down on relationships, taking your own advice here, right? Being out there in the media, social media, leveraging those platforms to share the journey and to let people know what you're doing so they can potentially become a collaborator. I think, by the way, that's golden advice, because I see so many people always holding themselves back, just saying, oh, I don't know where to go, I don't know anybody. But that's an excuse, right? Because what I hear you say is, when you got started and you have always believed in just expressing what you want, and you will be able to find the right people. And all it takes is sometimes just one person to open that door and say, let's have that meeting and figure out if there is a possibility for us to work together.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely make your own luck. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you have to go out there and do it, right? But you have to do it without expectations. And it's kind of counterintuitive, because like, you're expecting for something to happen, but you don't really know what's going to happen. You just know that something will happen, but you don't know what.
Yeah, you got to have a strong belief.
So you have to have the strong belief that something will happen without knowing what.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Yeah.
And for us engineers, oh man, that's like
I know. I was just thinking,
I want another result.
Like your left brain, it's just going nuts right here. But you've learned how to power through and how to disconnect from that to do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what I really enjoyed in getting to know you so much, Luis. From the first moment we met, I noticed your energy, and you're always curious, right? You're always curious about learning, getting to know new people. And that's why I thought that it would be so great to talk to you on today's episode, to kind of share to those who are still like seeking and getting some clarity in the direction what they want to do. I don't let the unknowing, even for example, single family versus commercial real estate, right? Don't let the fear of not knowing hold you back from not taking action. It may take time, but as long as you're transparent, you're clear on what you want, and then you have to take action. Like you said, you create your own luck. You have to take massive action to get to know those people. But it's possible. And before you know it, and I know that you agree with that, time goes by so quickly. Before you know it, 1, 2, 3 years into the game, and you're the expert now, right? You have surpassed that learning curve, and now you're the expert. And before you know it, that is the new normal.
Exactly.
I enjoyed so much talking to you today, Luis. Thank you so much for generously sharing your time here right before the end of the year. I think this was the perfect way to kind of close out our season here. We're going to resume next year, of course, but we would love to have you back in the near future, share more about your deals and everything that you have going on, because I know you guys are on point and your family is incredible and you're always looking for exciting things. So thank you so much. Happy holidays to you and the family, and I wish you a fantastic, phenomenal, and successful 2025. Thank you so much, Luis.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. Christmas.